Let me guess. You've said yes to something lately that you knew in your bones wasn't right. A project you didn't want, a coffee date you didn't have time for, a collaboration that looked good on paper but felt off in your gut. Maybe it was a friend, a colleague, a mentor, a client. Maybe you were flattered. Maybe you just didn't want to disappoint them. And maybe you convinced yourself that it just wasn't that big of a deal. But after it was done, after the meeting, the call, deliverable, whatever it was, you were completely exhausted. And worse yet, you were resentful. And the worst of all was that you were out of alignment with yourself. Here's the thing. If you don't learn how to master the word no, you will build a life and a business that you secretly just want to escape. And you guys, I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but I've lived it. I've lived the calendar full of shoulds. I've said yes because honestly, I didn't want to be rude and I didn't want to seem ungrateful. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe I just thought maybe it would open some like invisible door that I couldn't see on the other side. But you know what happens when you start saying yes to everything? You start to dilute yourself and you stretch yourself so dang thin that your brilliance is barely even visible. And that's not humility, you guys. That is literally self-abandonment. So today we're going to talk all about reclaiming our power. And it's going to be at one no at a time.
Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success, it's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, well, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the why did no one warn me about this moments that come while chasing big dreams. So let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen.
Let's just start here. You guys, why is it so hard to say no? Like it's two letters. It's one syllable. Like you would think it would be so simple. Like say it with me. No. Like, oh, but then like blah. But it's never just that, right? There's this weird emotional gymnastics routine that happens in our heads. Like, what if they think I'm selfish? What if they never ask me again? What if I miss out on something huge, right? It's that like FOMO that we built up in ourselves. And underneath all of that is actually people pleasing, scarcity, and identity. So let's break those down. People pleasing, you guys. People pleasing says, I don't want to disappoint them. Like, what if they really need me? You guys, they can find somebody else. Right? But like you care about how you're perceived when you use the phrase, I don't want to disappoint anyone. You want to be liked. You want to be thought of as helpful, reliable, generous, like all those things. But here's the actual problem. When you try to be everyone's everything, you end up being no one's anything. When you try to be everyone's everything, you end up being no one's anything. So when you show up as a people pleaser and you're like, oh, I don't want to disappoint them, you're not disappointing anyone. They literally just asked you because you always say yes. And you're the easy yes. You're the easy, like, oop, I'll just ask Hallie because I know she's going to say yes and I don't have to hunt anyone else down. You're not disappointing them by saying no. What you're doing is you are actually allowing them to create more reliable resources for themselves. Because right now, they have you. And so when you put the ball in someone else's court by saying, I'm sorry, that just doesn't fit into my schedule, then you're actually giving them capacity to build more resources for themselves. But instead, you've cared about how they will perceive you. You've cared about being liked. You've thought, like, in some way, shape, or fashion, that, like, you're the only person that can do the thing, and you're being generous. But again, what is the problem? When you try to be everyone's everything, you end up being no one's anything. So, number two is scarcity, right? And scarcity whispers, what if this is my only opportunity to do this thing? Newsflash, it's not. What if this is the last client I get? Newsflash, it's not. What if saying no ruins my chance at growth? Newsflash, it's not. This is fear, like in a fancy outfit, like ball gown. Like just imagine like the most stunning person if you've ever gone to a gala. I've never been to a gala. This is what I imagine. I imagine, right? Like in the movies, the lady's coming down and she's in this beautiful ball gown and everybody looks at her. In this situation of scarcity, that's what fear is. It's literally showing up in the fanciest dress that you can imagine with the shoes that actually end up hurting your feet at the end of the night. It dresses itself up in logic, but it's actually lack. Scarcity. It's not your only opportunity. It's not the last client that you're ever going to get. Like, can we just break out the violin, you guys? Like the smallest violin and just let it play. Like, that's a hard reality for some of us. But like fear like shows up in its logical outfit, right? Like at the board meeting in its fanciest suit. That's what fear is. And then the third one is identity. And this one is the sneakiest because it sounds like if I say no, will they still think that I'm nice? Like, will they actually think that I'm a B if I say no? Will I still be seen as generous and kind and supportive, like all the things that when you show up to do the thing, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, we just really love your support. You're so generous. Will I still be seen as that if I say no this time? Listen closely to me. Your worth is not measured by your availability. Let me say it again. Your worth is not measured by your availability. Put that on a sticky note, put it on your steering wheel, put it as the background of your cell phone. Because we've been taught this lie that saying yes is the key to success. When you get the job offer on paper, it's like everything in black and white seems really, really good. So I have to say yes to this because what if I don't get another job like this? We've been taught the lie that saying yes is the key to success, that hustle equals heart, that availability equals value. But that's not even freaking true. That's not even close to being true. Again, fear has showed up in its ball gown, but saying yes to everything waters down your brilliance. Like if you just show up and you're like saying yes willy-nilly to all the things, who are you? What are the things that you're doing for yourself that you want to do? Individual human, Callie, Sheila, whoever is listening to this, when you say yes, it is because you are saying yes to someone else. You are not actually saying to yes to what you want to do. Sometimes we do, sometimes. But large in part, this is for the masses of us that chronically say yes and don't even know how to use the word no. Saying yes to everything waters down your brilliance. It waters down the gifts that you have. It waters down your zone of genius. And it pulls you in a dozen directions and it keeps you too busy to focus on the thing that you were actually called to build. And eventually, what happens? You resent it. You start feeling like you're a passenger princess in your own life and not the kind that like you have a husband or a partner that loves and adores you and you're driving them around and like they stop at the gas station and they're like, "Do you want anything?" And you say no and they still come out of the store with something and you get control of the radio and you get to have a lovely conversation and you don't have to worry about what direction you're going because they've got it handled under control. Like that is not the passenger princess life that you are on. The passenger princess life that you have and is like driving you off the cliff and you have no idea that you're actually going off the cliff because you are so delirious. You literally start to feel like a passenger in your own life in every single circumstances. Like you're just responding to requests instead of making intentional choices. Which brings me to the next truth. Saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you rooted. Big difference there. No is a boundary. It's not a rejection. It is a boundary that you have lovingly given yourself. We think saying no means like we're turning our back on someone or something. But in reality, every no is actually a yes to something else. And I know you've heard it 1,000 times, so I'm going to say it again for the 1,001th time. Every no is actually saying yes to something else. It's saying yes to your energy. It's saying yes to your peace. It's saying yes to your priorities. It's saying yes to your purpose. And when you start viewing your no through the lens of that, everything starts to change. Saying no to the wrong project is saying yes to creating something you actually care about. Saying no to a draining client is saying yes to your capacity. Saying no to that third meeting of the day that actually could have been an email is saying yes to rest, which allows you to show up fully tomorrow. Can we please? If a client, if a team member, if somebody calls a third meeting of the day that you know can be an email, please normalize the fact of saying that like you are not showing up to that meeting, that they can say everything that they need to say in an email. And it goes a little something like this. Hi, so and so. I have projects to prioritize for the rest of my afternoon. I am not available to meet at blah, blah, blah. However, I do welcome communicating via email should it be something specific that we need to talk about right now. Send the dang email, you guys. It is not that hard. Your no is not an offense, it's an act of alignment. We don't need to be showing up to meetings that we have no reason to show up to just because somebody called it. But let's also name this. There's a ripple effect to misaligned yeses, which is super, super scary. And if you've ever found yourself thinking, why am I so tired all the time? Why does my schedule feel like it's so heavy? Like I have so much on the schedule. Why do I feel pulled in a million directions? You are. You're actually being pulled in a million and two directions, but it's a million. You actually are living in a pattern of accidental yeses. And it's the ones that you give without checking in with your body. It's the ones that you say out of obligation. It's the ones that you agree to in a moment of pressure and then regret for the next 3 weeks for the rest of the workday. But here's what misaligned yeses do. They lead to burnout because your energy is not renewable. And when it's spent on things that don't matter to you, you are like the drained battery and you don't have any more batteries in the cupboard to replenish it. And then they create resentment because you're giving more to the people around you and they start to feel like takers, even if they're not trying to be. Like that is a subconscious thing that we put in our head that we have given permission to people to make us feel like that when they're not trying to make us feel like that, right? It's like when someone is texting you, they can't see what you're doing on the other end of the phone. They don't know that you're mid conversation with somebody else. They don't know that you just want to be left alone. So they're sending you a text, and on the other end, you are showing up to the conversation feeling like they are taking your time. And so the exasperation comes like, oh my gosh, like, stop texting me. They don't know that. And so it's the same type of thing that when they ask a question, it feels like they are just trying to take your soul. But they're not trying to do that. That is the weight that you have put on yourself. But the ripple effect to misaligned yeses is that they also cause confusion, right? Like your whole entire brand feels off. Your business feels scattered. You feel scattered. Your goals feel like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing because your calendar doesn't actually reflect your vision. It reflects this fear, this scarcity mindset. And if your calendar is full of things that don't align, you can't expect your life to magically feel aligned. You have got to get honest about what's on your plate and who put it there. So, how do you fix it? We're going to practice the no muscle. Are you ready? Okay. All right. When I say no, you're going to say no. No. Tell me how good that felt. Okay, we're going to try it with a sentence. When I say, hey, can you run to the store and pick up 16 lemons and 42 pieces of candy? You're going to say no. Ready? Hey, can you go to the store and pick up 16 lemons and 42 pieces of candy? No. I, I felt like you wanted to give an excuse. Newsflash, you also don't have to give an excuse. No is a complete sentence. And I say practice this because it really is a muscle and it gets stronger the more and more that you use it. And at first, you guys, it's going to feel super awkward. Like you might fumble, like you might be trying to over explain your no, and you might send like a paragraph instead of a sentence. And that's okay. That's okay. You're unlearning decades of social programming. Just give yourself a little bit of grace. Are you ready? We're going to practice again. We're going to practice say no without an apology. Say no without an apology is that's not going to work for me. It's not going to be, I'm so sorry. I just have so much going on and I feel bad, but just no, no, that's not going to work for me. If somebody asks why, say because it's just not going to work for me. That's all. That's all you have to say. But using delay when needed can also be helpful. So if it's something that you really truly want to see on your calendar instead of something else, and you might get to the point of saying yes to this thing because you now want to back out on the another thing, or you need to check with your husband or your partner, or you need to check with like the other just the other things that are on your calendar, right? Like we live in so much of a society that when we're having conversations with people, we actually are listening to respond. We're not listening to hear them. So that's when we get into the trap of saying yes all the time. Is we're not actually listening to what they asked us to do. What we're doing is we're saying yes because, again, we're going back to the scarcity mindset of what if they don't like me if I say no? They've asked me so many years before and I've said yes before. Why can't I say yes this year? Right? So, all of those things. So, when we're using a delay, it is giving ourselves grace to be able to go back to our calendar and spend the time to actually meditate and understand, do I want this? Is this in alignment with who I am right now? Next year could be different. Next year you could say yes. Guess what? They're still going to come back next year and ask you. They will. So, using delay when needed. Let me think on that and get back to you. If you're a God girl and you're having prayerful conversations with other God girls, it's a let me pray on that and get back to you because everything needs to go back to prayer. Everything needs to go back to discernment. You need to discern, is this in alignment with the will that is going on in your life? And it gives you a space to check in with yourself instead of defaulting to a yes out of habit. Like that is really good practice. Let me think on that and get back to you. And make sure you get back to them with a yes or a no. But then it comes back to like number one, where you just say, that's not going to work for me. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to be like, thank you so much for getting back to me. So if you need to like use these in tandem to get yourself under the area of utilizing no, it's let me think on that and get back to you. You're giving yourself grace there. You're also giving them grace. If they don't have time to wait for you, then it's an automatic no, right? And then you can come back a few days later, or a few hours after you've sort of like decompressed and thought about it and say, that's not going to work for me. And guess what? No harm, no foul. But when you create a decision filter, so now we're going to create a decision filter. When we say, let me think on that and get back to you, here's the filter that I want you to put everything through. Does this align with my goals? Does this honor my capacity? And will this move me closer to the version of my life that I'm building? If it's not a full body yes, it's a full body no. It's just that simple. And so, lastly, I want to talk about here's how we're going to start rewiring the narrative around no. Because most of us are walking around with very outdated, a very unhelpful story about what it means to say no. We think that it makes us difficult, but you're not being difficult, you're being discerning. Not the same definition. I don't feel like we put a lot of power into discernment these days. And if you're feeling like that too, then that's what's making it difficult. But we also think that it means we're missing out. But you're not missing out. You're actually making room for things. And we think it's selfish, but it's actually sacred. Like it is sacred to say no. Boundaries protect your magic. They preserve your mission and they keep you from burning out in the name of being agreeable. So here's the truth. Your no is not a problem. It's not an inconvenience. It's not a flaw in your character. It's a reflection of your clarity. And the more you use it, the more power you will find. So if you're building something meaningful, if you're trying to lead a life that feels intentional, if you're tired of the mental chaos that comes from saying yes to every damn thing, let me say this. You need clarity, you need courage, and you need the inner authority to say hell no to what drains you so that you can say hell yes to what actually fuels you, because that's where your power lies. Not in how much you can take on, but in how clearly you choose what's yours and what's not. And the best part is that the more you say no, the more you come home to yourself. And that's the real win.
Hey, friend. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.